All right. Good evening, everyone. We're here for our January 31 meeting of the CPRA Ad Hoc, Policies and Procedures Ad Hoc. I'm Brenda Harbin Forte, President, and Commissioners Angela Jackson Castaigne and Kadeli Ordaz are present. We have CPRA Executive Director Charlotte Jones. We also have member Mariana Contreras, and we also have ad hoc member Reginald Lyles, Chief Reginald Lyles. And we'll notice, we will acknowledge other people as we notice when they come in. The agenda for this evening is to go over a proposed final. We're going to start working on the proposed final draft tonight. And for that, we are going to turn it over to Director Jones, E.D. Jones. And we will let you share the screen. Angela will turn over the screen to you to start sharing. And we'll go through the corrections that we've made, that you have made. It also indicated, Mariano Contreras indicated that he made some additional corrections this afternoon. So we'll incorporate those as we go along. Otherwise, Charlotte, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Judge. Again, good evening, everyone. And like I mentioned, I've tried to incorporate, I went back and listened to the meetings that were available, and I tried to incorporate the changes that were discussed and to point out areas where there was a little bit of a contradiction between some of the suggestions. So I kind of picked what I thought was more appropriate, and you guys can decide if that's okay or not. I was able to get, I wanted to stop at a specific point, so I was able to update the SOP up until the investigative process. So the beginning and then the entire investigative process should incorporate the corrections, except the ones that were added today. So am I able to share my screen now, Commissioner? Let's try it.
Angela, you're on mute.
Okay.
I believe you can.
All right, let's see what we can do. Okay, can you guys see that? Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
Can you punch it up to make it a little bit bigger for those of us with veteran eyes?
For Mariana.
Experienced eyes.
Let's see, as soon as I can. Again, I wish my administrative analyst was here because I am so not the technical one. Where would I enlarge it to use as an can?
And
Bottom right, you can just where it says 100%, just click the plus sign.
Gotcha. All right, is this big enough?
yeah, that's good, I think.
Okay.
That good enough, Mariana, for our eyes?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we're just going to scroll down. I'm hoping that the table of contents is correcting itself. So that's my hope with that program. So there was some concern in the beginning that about the opening and the history that I had there, not wanting it to be perceived as negative and wanting more of the history of the CPRB. So I did change this, so it's a full page now. I don't want to read it, you guys can read it, but basically it's about when the CPRB started in 1980, when it was the duties, the responsibilities and jurisdictions were expanded in 96 and 02, and their mission at the time. And then it goes into 2016, the measures that created LL and S1 that created the commission and CPRA, again, talking about it being an independent investigative body and what we're charged with doing, the legislation, and the charter numbers. In 2020, S1 was passed by voters, expanding the independence and authority. That information is basically the same. And then I end with this historical implementation and expansion of the powers of the former CPRB, the commission, and the CPRA show how strong the Oakland community is in its resolve for effective and independent police oversight.
Can I stop you? So we don't have a red line version of what was changed?
I don't know how to put them both at the same time. So no, I didn't change it on the document that you were changing. It was changing it on. So that's why I'm like narrating the changes that I made for the most part. But both of them are still in the shared document. So you can look at them both if you want to see exactly where the changes were.
Okay. Okay, great. Go ahead.
So we go to the mission. I had it before in 2 paragraphs. I believe one of the commissioners thought it would be best that it was 1 paragraph. So I did that, incorporated the language, hopefully cohesively into 1 paragraph. The jurisdiction stayed the same as that's the legal language. We got to the NACO. Someone suggested that we spell out the entire word, which I did. The entire title. It's actually the code of ethics. I had called it the code of conduct. So I was able to discover that. Someone suggested, excuse me for not remember who suggested what, but there was a suggestion about having an introductory paragraph regarding NACO. So I added that NACO is a nonprofit organization that works to enhance accountability and transparency in policing and build public trust through civilian oversight, seeks to establish a community of civilian oversight entities by identifying effective practices, serving as an information and training resource, and encouraging networking and information sharing. And then their code of ethics promotes, and then I put their code of ethics. That language was kind of derived from a couple of sites that they had, a couple of different areas they had there. I had called this area glossary. Glossary, I believe, definitions and acronyms. And someone suggested that it be put to the end, like glossaries usually are, of course. But I remember having other comments from other commissioners as well, indicating that it's difficult to talk about something before you even know what it is. So I did feel like it was better to leave this as a reference before discussing the items, being able to define them. I did look also at a couple of other samples, and this is typical that the definitions are up front so that you can reference them before you get to the end. But I thought, again, because glossaries are usually at the end, I understand that I did take out the glossary from the title and just called it definitions and acronyms to maybe make it seem less like something that should be at the end, if that's okay.
And then as we go through, these definitions are not exhaustive. Is the word "are" after definitions?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then take the S off of list. The definitions are not exhaustive, but list terms. Take that S off of list.
Oh, Charlotte, it doesn't look like you were in the online version, which means that any changes you make, you're just creating an additional copy.
Oh, so right, I did. I had it like,
yeah. So I would, I think it's probably better if you close this one out and then open the online version that you uploaded.
Okay, let's see.
If you don't mind.
I do not mind. So I'm going to, don't say that, doesn't matter. Uh-oh.
And do we have a chat function? No. I was gonna try to stick the link in the chat, but I don't see a chat function here. Just Q&A.
Angela is our technical support person.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Not in the least.
I appreciate it, or else we would definitely have a problem with it.
I take pride in knowing Microsoft Office. No.
And we have Pastor Thompson on. Pastor Jacqueline Thompson has joined us. Good evening, Pastor Thompson.
Good evening, everyone.
Dr. Thompson. She's my pastor, even though I don't get to church as often as I'd like.
Good evening. Good evening, ma'am.
Always. Good evening.
Okay, so when you do the online version, I guess that it gets kind of weird up there, but, gotcha.
If you go to, let's see, where it says, I think saved. You can open it in the desktop version and then it'll look exactly, oh, no, not that's. Normally there's something that says. If you hit maybe file,
Okay, I see file and it has working copy.
no, hold on, let me close out and tell you.
I mean, the table of contents, if that's the only thing that's gonna look crazy right now, I guess it's okay.
Oh, so if you click on editing at the top,
Editing?
right there, yep.
Okay.
And then open in desktop app. All the way at the bottom, yep. And then open in Word, yeah. And now it should be like the same version you were seeing before. It just takes a moment to open. And this will be the automatically saved version as well.
Okay, so do I want to automatically save changes as they happen?
Yep,
Okay, I want to mess that up. All right. Cool, thank you.
of course.
Okay.
We pay her well for that expertise.
Okay, so just as a recap for Pastor Thompson, I was going over the changes that I made. I changed the history a bit, and I incorporated the mission statement into one paragraph. The jurisdiction stayed the same. Again, NACO. I added an introductory paragraph and spelled out the entire word and corrected that it's their code of ethics. I changed the title from glossary and definitions to definitions and acronyms. These definitions are not exhaustive, but list terms and acronyms most commonly used by CPRA in the investigative process. I put them in alphabetical order as they should have been. I took out, I think I had a lot of also known as or referring to in there, and I took that out and just, again, if you can see here, if it's called by another name, just put that in parentheses, I mean in quotations. I didn't have the definitions for complaint investigator 2 or 3. I added those. I also didn't have the definition for the chief of police there. Someone suggested that. And just the general, those other definitions are basically the same. I had a correction here. I called that reporting person. It's actually reporting party for RP, but basically those are the same. For the mandated duties and responsibilities, again, I don't have the other corrected version here, but there was a paragraph that said, what is CPRA? And someone indicated that that's repetitious. And so I took that out and moved straight into what does CPRA do? And that language is basically the same. Except there were, I'm saying the same, but there were corrections inside that Commissioner, the Judge Harper Forte, included in the actual document. So I made sure to do those corrections. I'm not pointing those out as much because they're not about substance as opposed to grammar and form.
So, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you scroll back up, this is where I added a change today.
Okay.
Let's see, keep going. Okay, right. Just under First Amendment. Yeah, right there, C.
CPRA?
Yeah, C, CPRA also investigates any other possible. I took the actual wording from the charter section 604, and it's different than that. It says whether or not the subject. So
whether or not,
I put it in, why isn't it showing up?
because this isn't that corrected version.
Oh,
This is the version that a working version that looks like that.
okay,
But again, I'll go back and check the ones that you made as
Right.
well as listening to this. So
okay,
I'll put the language that you put, if it's directly from the charter, I'll definitely put that
right.
in. Okay. So again, just changes that, you got, there was a lot of confusion about this intake CI3 versus the investigative CI3. So I took out intake CI3 and just called them CI3, even though that'll get a little bit confusing when I talk about the CI3 that's over intake and the CI3 that's over investigations, to refer to them both as CI3. But because there was so much back and forth about there not being a real intake CI3, I took out that title and tried to clear it up when I got further down. The complaint, someone suggested that we have an intro paragraph before each of the processes. And so this was my basic intro to the complaint receipt and intake process. The purpose of the intake process is to ensure that any person who wishes to file a complaint of police misconduct has an available mechanism to do so, and ensures the CPRA can receive, document, and be properly responsive to every complaint. Before I got into the complaint process. And please, if anyone has anything to add or you want me to address while I'm going through, just let me know. Still the same information about they can be filed by, who they can be filed against. I think I clarified this. Any sworn employee of the Oakland Police Department who was a sworn employee on the date of the incident complained of. The methods to file them. We had some back and forth about it's saying OPD/IAD. The commissioner pointed out that on OPD's website, it just says OPD. So I left that. The last thing that I had on the recording, Judge Harper-Forty had indicated we're going to put a pin in it. I don't think we ever unpinned it. So I just picked OPD for now. If you guys have more comment about that, just let me know. But I put any specified OPD location. Again, OPD supervising officer, CPRA office, and online complaints. I added this section E, I believe at the suggestion of someone else, that it should also say here about the mandated complaints or what kind of complaints can be taken. Well, I didn't just put the mandated complaints because, just to be clear, CPRA will receive and accept any complaint of police misconduct. We accept them all. All complaints are forwarded to OPD for investigation. And although CPRA will receive all complaints of misconduct, we're not mandated to investigate all of them. And then I list the 5 areas that we are mandated to investigate.
Okay.
So E is a new paragraph. And then, so that moved the other ones down to F.
So perhaps, let me go back up there.
Sure.
Perhaps we should say CPRA, although we will receive all complaints, CPRA is mandated to investigate only allegations of use of force in custody, etc. And then I suppose that, and we could say, or should we say here, or complaints or something designated or as directed by the police commission? Should we put that here? Or no?
We can say that language again if you want. It was earlier, but we can copy and paste it here too.
So and maybe we don't need to redo it.
I'm saying that's the language that was changed, that Mr. Contreras changed today. So we would want to get the exact language before I add it there again. But this is the language you're talking about. Also investigates any other possible misconduct or failure to act as directed by the commission.
Yes.
You want me to say it again?
So go back to where we were, where you say that you'll receive all complaints, but you are mandated to investigate only those.
Right.
What happens to complaints that are received that don't fall within those 5 categories?
They all complaints go to OPD for investigation. They're required to investigate all complaints of misconduct. So
Okay, there may be something that clarifies that so that there is some clarity that we're receiving them all and not just doing away with those we're not mandated to investigate. Like, I know that the internal people know that. And I don't know what we decided on public facing and internal use, if we're still having that debate or not. But maybe not if you don't want to repeat the language that you've already used, just something that alludes to, very brief, that all complaints are received, investigated by OPD. However, CPRA is only required, mandated, whatever the language is here.
So when I say
Or
all,
just say they're referred because they're forwarded to OPD for investigation. So that's the clarity that I missed.
okay. All right. So
Is that sufficient? Pastor Jackie, is that
I think it can do.
all complaints are forwarded to OPD for investigation?
Yeah, I think it can.
Actually, perhaps that ought to go at the end. The CPRA will receive and accept any complaint of police misconduct. Then perhaps the second sentence should be, although we received the complaints, we're mandated to investigate only these 5. However, all complaints are forwarded to OPD for investigation. Should we do it that way, maybe?
I think it would flow better if you did.
I think so too.
So you want to change all complaints?
Yeah, that sentence that you have up there, yeah, just cut it, yeah.
I could have cut and paste, right?
Yeah. So the CPRA will receive and accept any complaint of police misconduct. Although the CPRA will receive all complaints of misconduct, CPRA is mandated to investigate only these, etc. All complaints, however, are forwarded to OPD for investigation. Maybe we can put in however in there.
Should there be, but not limited to, because I mean, there's going to be some that, they may want to, right? But they're not mandated, but they're able to investigate, correct?
Right, that's the C that we went up to that you commented on earlier. I'm saying if you want it to repeat again, that's what the C that you commented on says.
Yeah, that's only, I mean,
CPRA also investigates any other possible misconduct or failure to act, whether or not the subject of a public complaint as directed by the commission.
Whether or not the subject.
You could put that back in there.
Put that there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you scroll back down, I think, well, I don't think you have to copy and paste the whole. Also investigates any.
I'll just copy and then you can tell me what.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have the language that Mr. Contreras changed, so it'll be different anyway, but I'll know that it's this, whatever I change up top, I'll change down here.
Right, but that's not only referring to complaints coming to CPRA, it's also referring to the ability of CPRA to investigate other complaints going through the department, through IAD.
I'm not sure what you mean.
So the language is set, and I'm looking at it right now under section 604 of the charter, says the agency should also investigate any other possible misconduct or failure to act of a department sworn employee, police department, whether or not the subject of a public complaint. So it may not be a public complaint, it may be a self-initiated investigation from the department. Public complaint as directed by the commission. So,
right, that's the same language that we have here.
Well, it's just a little different. It's whether or not the subject of a public complaint. I think yours only has whether.
Okay, so I left the not.
Why don't we, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not really right. Okay, I'll fix that. I don't want to mess with that formatting because it'll be a big mess, but I'll
Right.
fix that. Okay, so you wanted it there too.
Mhm.
That's it. Wanted it there too.
Okay, so you do have authority to invest, but who would initiate that? Whether or not the subject of a, oh, that's as directed by the commission. Okay. I'm
That's
sorry.
correct.
Well, it's actually by the commission, the
Yeah, so that, yeah, so I'm
Office
sorry.
of
So
Inspector General or CPRA.
you don't just decide on your, I'm sorry, what were you saying, Mariano?
I said it could be by majority vote from the commission. It could be a request from CPRA, or it could be a request from the Office of Inspector General. Either of those three entities can request either investigation procedures or papers of anything that's being in any investigation performed by IAD.
No. Okay.
I'm sorry, are you saying that we can request of the commission to direct us to do that? Or I don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry.
So let's say there's investigations being done that have been gone through IAD. They, either public complaints or there's self-initiated investigations by the department.
Mhm.
Now, CPRA, the commission, or the Office of Inspector General will not be privy to self-initiated investigations because they're not public. But you do have the authority, the commission, by majority vote, to request information on those investigations. The Office of Inspector General also has that authority, or the staff, the director of CPRA can also request those investigations. And that's in the charter.
So what section were you reading? 604 what?
Let me see here, hold on. It's under investigations, 604, section F.
The agency should have been.
And then there's some additional language I'd like to add to F, the following paragraph.
Okay, so now let me ask you, when you were saying that either that the commission or the IAG or the OIG, Office of the Inspector General, the OIG, where was that language?
So that is in under investigations,
Yeah.
number 2, subject
Number
to
two.
applicable law.
Uh-huh.
If you go down to 2 sentences down, it says request for access to such files and records shall be made by a majority vote of the commission, by the agency director, CPRA, or by the inspector general.
Okay.
By majority vote, the commission shall have the authority to request information from the department, and the chief of police or her or his designee shall respond to such a request as permitted by law. So the commission by majority vote can request that information, or the director of CPRA can request that information, or the Office of the Inspector General could request that information.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. Is this language that should be here in the complaint types that can be filed, or is that something in the investigative process that you're saying we should add?
I think just that one sentence on that should be changed, but then on F, I have some other language that I inserted today
Okay.
that I think will sort of clarify this, or it'll use what I just cited as support.
Okay. So we're all set with E. We'll move down to F. Gotcha. Okay.
So on here, complaints made through CPRA or OPD. If a complaint is made directly with OPD, that complaint is captured on a complaint investigative report CIR form. OPD is required to forward the CIR to CPRA within 1 business day of receipt, Charter Section 604F. So here I put in that all self-initiated investigations by IAD shall also be shared with CPRA within 1 working day of commencement. And now that's not in there, and we're not, all we're doing is changing okay, so what occurred to me at the last police commission meeting last Thursday was that there's an inequitable investigative process within CPRA/IAD. CPRA is directed by the charter to share any investigation with IAD. But IAD is only directed to share complaints that are filed by the public and not self-initiated investigations by IAD. That is inequitable. That lends to singular and hidden investigations, and they don't lend to true investigations that will, do the proper investigations, such as what CPRA would be doing. So I was thinking that how would now, so the commission, OIG, and CPRA staff have the ability and authority to request that information, but how would you know what to request when you don't know that investigation is either taking place or has taken place? So that's why I inserted that line in there, saying that all self-initiated investigations by IAD shall be shared with CPRA within 1 working day of commencement.
Well, go ahead. Who was trying to speak?
I was just going to ask, can this group mandate that?
That's what
That's what I was going to say too. I don't know that we can require IAD in our SOP to do something that the charter. Oh, how did that switch? I'm sorry. How did that happen?
That's what I was going to say, is I was copying and pasting from the old version, Mario's input. So
Oh, okay, so we see the line, all additional self-initiated IAD investigations of misconduct shall be made available to CPRA within 1 business day of commencement. I think my question, and I do not disagree and certainly empathize as usual with your point, I'm just wondering, where does enforcement lie?
Well, if it's not in there, there can be no enforcement or discipline, right? So that's why we add it. And now it's part of the ordinance, right? Now it's in the charter stating that the commission, the OIG, and CPRA have that authority. That is there. I'm not making that up.
Right, no, I get that part.
Okay.
I think my question lies around CPRA's ability to ensure that the other groups turn it over. Right? If I don't know what to ask you for,
right,
then who is the authority that makes sure you volunteer it? If that's not me.
Well, so somewhere else, I also have another line where, you don't know what you're asking for if you don't know what exists.
Mm-hmm.
So I am recommending that at the first Thursday meeting of the month of the commission, that the commission, that CPRA, and the OIG at every one of those first Monday meetings request any self-initiated investigations to be reported to CPRA.
Okay,
And that way
Okay.
you're asking once a month, and they
Okay.
can still tell you, we don't have any, but if later on, we find out that there was, then you can have enforcement or discipline.
Okay, so you're suggesting then that that as almost as a standing agenda item, that the commission request records of any self-initiated IAD investigations.
Correct.
Can I interject that we, if you say self-initiated, you're going to get into some kind of confusion with
Okay.
law enforcement and how they think. It should be departmental internal complaints. Self-initiated sounds like
Okay.
an officer making a complaint on himself, or
Okay.
coming forth and saying, making notice, like our most recent case, that there are certain things that officers are required to bring forth on their own.
mhm,
Any crime acts, any crimes that they participate in, anything that they see, they're supposed to, that's self-initiation. But what we're talking about here is any departmental internal complaints from anyone in the department.
is department initiated the same thing, Deacon?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we
You
were
want
to
to
say,
say department, so you cover everything and everybody.
okay,
Do
And you
we
want to
say,
use the word internal, because that's different from, as obviously, than someone making a complaint from the outside about an officer.
so we want
I think that's
any,
what you're driving at, Mariano.
Okay.
so what is the language, Reggie, that we're asking for? Any internal departmental complaint?
Any departmental internal complaints,
Departmental internal, okay.
right? As
Any
opposed to a
departmental
complaint,
internal complaints.
as opposed to a complaint coming from
Self-initiated.
outside or from another department within the city.
Okay,
Right.
okay. So now where were you putting? Okay, so this language, any and all additional self-initiated IAD investigations of misconduct. It would be all
Additional departmental,
internal complaints
yes.
of misconduct shall be made available to CPRA.
Well, so first of all, we have to have the commission to vote and agree on that. That's one. And two, it wouldn't, if it's a standing agenda item that happens once a month, they couldn't do it within one business day of commencement, because it would have to be after it was voted on for that month.
Well, no, it could be, what call it, in retrospect, right? So if you're the first month, the first Thursday, your first meeting of the month, if you request that, and they don't have it, and then you come the next month, anything in between, I mean, they'd have to report it, right? If there was any. So it's not, yeah, no, I see what you're saying, within 1 day of commencement. Well, so now they know if they initiated,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if there was an internal departmental complaint, investigation, then they know that, either the commission, CPRA, or the OIG made this request. So now within 24 hours, they'd have to report it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Or get a hold of the commission chair, the agency director, or the inspector general, and let them know.
Okay.
So yeah, once they know that, I mean, once we start saying, hey, turn them over, all we need to do is the first time. Then we have the rule that says it has to be done within 1 business day of commencement. Should we do we want 1 business day, or do we want 2 business days? Let's do
I
2.
think we want as many days that will actually make this enforceable.
Yeah.
That's what, so if that's 2, then 2. And Mariano, the section, the charter section that's currently listed in that paragraph 604F, is that where that was referenced? And if not, should that be added again or no?
I think we should,
Yes, that's under, that just states that the agency should also investigate any other possible misconduct or failure to act. And that's under F, yes,
Okay, so that current reference covers this addition as well.
yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So just so I'm clear, if we receive all of the internal complaints from OPD or IED, there has to be a procedure that goes along with it, because we're still not authorized to investigate those unless we're directed to do so by the commission. So are you saying that we would receive them and then send them to the commission, and then the commission would decide which of those, if any, we would investigate? Because first of all, if they weren't mandated, we still would investigate them. And two, we still have to be directed by the commission for each of those. So there has to be a process that, I mean, we can't just get them. We get them, what are we going to do with them?
Isn't misconduct one of those, under one of the categories?
No, not just general misconduct. There's 5 individual categories. So say, for example, there's an internal complaint from IAD about an improper search and seizure. We're not mandated to investigate that. So they sent it to us at an internal complaint, and we received it. And then unless the commission directed us specifically to investigate that particular one, we would just have a complaint. We would just have the piece of paper.
Well, so I thought that earlier when we stated, when we cited that language, that not mandated, I thought we added but not limited to.
Can we go back up to that paragraph? Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
So yeah, any other possible misconduct still as directed by the commission. So just because, even if they send them to us every day, if we have one every day, the commission would have to direct us for each case. They're not going to give us a blanket, investigate all internal complaints, because then basically they would just be saying investigate all complaints in the way that OPD does. So they would specifically have to tell us which of those internal complaints that we received to investigate. So they would have to have a procedure whereby they determine that.
and perhaps then, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, perhaps then the report should be made to the police commission. And the police commission, so we sort of get a report of every departmental internal complaints. And then we review that. And then we direct CPRA, investigate complaint number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, investigate complaint number 13, 14, 15, or whatever. So it would have to, I think the information would probably have to come to the commission first, and then we direct CPRA to do it. So if we had gotten, for example, a report that the sergeant involved in the case that everybody's talking about now was engaged in a hit and run, then that is reported to us, and then we direct CPRA to do an investigation of that.
Correct.
And you have to consider, though, too, Commissioner, that when we get those CIRs, they don't necessarily say this is a complaint about a sergeant involved in a hit and run, just using that as an example. It might say something very general like, this is a complaint of improper procedure.
Yeah.
So you would have no idea that it was something like the hit and run that you might want to look into. So you're going to have a bunch of complaints that have some often very general information. So that would require you to look into each complaint further to see if it's something that you wanted to direct us to look into.
And you got to factor in the sheer number. I think
Yes,
a couple of years ago, there was a 1,569 complaints.
Right.
So that's a lot. I also want to point out, in this paragraph, it says profile discrimination, truthfulness and First Amendment public assemblies. Should that be a comma after truthfulness? And I just don't understand how truthfulness and First Amendment public assemblies are okay. So in the case that Judge Harmer just brought up, that is a case of truthfulness. that distinctively is a case of people, you know, getting
Well,
together, conspiring, not telling the truth, not bringing forth, and when they're asked, just out and out lying. So,
that's after you get into the investigation. Yes, it is. I'm
yes,
not saying that there isn't a truthfulness allegation as you go on, but
yeah,
you
and
judge
that
whether you want. I'm sorry.
that would be my question to you, Charlotte. Would be, Ms. Jones, excuse me. That would be my question to you, is that the case didn't start out as a truthfulness case. It became a truthfulness case
That's
and
my
a conspiracy about lying between two or three officers, you know, and even a commander. And so a captain, excuse me. So, you know, how would the commission get involved in that?
that's my point, sir. It wouldn't have come in as a truthfulness allegation. And if it had come to us, even if it had come to us as a result of a complaint, and it said, you know, this is a complaint of a improperly reported accident or something like that, it wouldn't be a mandated category. So we wouldn't necessarily have investigated it anyway. I mean, obviously it became a matter of truthfulness, you know, as the investigation went on, but on the face of it, we wouldn't have it as one of the mandated categories. So it's kind of in hindsight that the commission would say, oh, these are the things that are going on, and then direct CPRA to look into that, because we wouldn't on the face of it.
Ms.
So
Jones, I'm
also-
sure it's clear to you by now who's on the call, what it is that we are trying to get at and deal with in light of things that have gone on. So I think my question is, Judge, in light of the example that Deacon just gave, is there a way, is there a process, is there anything that can be developed that would help the commission filter, if the number is, let's say the ballpark 1,500 that was named, that would help the commission be able to filter and know what to direct without it becoming overwhelming? Because I think the sense is, and it's only probably because it's today, right? Maybe 2 weeks from now, the sentiment might be different, but I will speak for me only. There is the sense of, what are we doing if things like what we are experiencing can still happen? Not
Amen.
saying that the efficacy of this work is not important. The efficacy of this work is very important, and I'm honored to be able to do it. But that sentiment is in the air, and to not call it out to me is not transparent. And so I knew exactly when Brother Mario started speaking what he was getting at, and it was exculpated by Deacon Lyles, and I think it's a worthy issue. And I would love to know or explore how, either in this process or in perhaps another process, we can look into that. Because I think everyone, if you've been here for a minute, lived in Oakland, next to Oakland, adjacent to Oakland, claim Oakland, is feeling a particular kind of way.
Or
Right
reads
along.
or reads a newspaper.
Exactly. You're just feeling some kind of way through here. And no one wants to be a party to something that is not enforceable, that will not be, you know, recognized just for the sake of appearing as if you've done something.
Right.
Okay, my speech is over. All right.
Let me tag along with that. You know, even if we're not at this moment effective, we should write like we want to be this effective, because, you know,
Yes.
I think I'm the only one here that has lived the life of a police officer. I don't know if Charlotte was in law enforcement or not. Well, you know, I lived it for 35 years, and it's not just what is done to you, it is what written and could be done to you that's a deterrent. And we're not dealing with, you know, I thought our opening paragraph should have been much stronger, and I argued for that, but it looked like I lost that argument, because if we don't know the history of what we're dealing with here, all we're doing is repeating it over and over and over. We have to look at the Oakland Police Department and come to the conclusions that William H. Orrick came to, they're incapable of disciplining themselves.
Mhm.
And we got judgments of, tens of millions of dollars that have gone out. We have folks who've been prosecuted. So, we ought to recognize that and say, look, we may not be able to do it right now, but we ought to at least put it on paper, and so that we can evolve to it. And if we're in this business, that's the animal we're dealing with.
Yeah, it may be that we need a special section in terms of investigations of departmental internal complaints, and that it should have its own separate heading or something to get to what we have to do, because there is going to have to be something. And by the way, I can hold my thought, Mariano, because you've had your hand up for a while. And what I'm going to suggest too is, this is sort of a give and take. So just go ahead and jump in, Mariano, when you have a point and stuff. But go, I can hold mine. I think I remember what I want to say. Go ahead, Mariano.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvard Forte. To your last point, what we don't want to do is create something that needs to go to the voters, because if we change something very specifically from the charter, then it has to go to the voters, or at the very least, an ordinance change at the city council. It's all here. We're not changing or making anything up or misinterpreting anything. It's all there. All we are simply requesting is that it's an inequitable process. Okay, it's a one way, and the other way is not correct. So without, I agree with Reggie, when he says, if it's not written, let's write what we want to see changed without getting into the weeds and, what may happen, what may not happen. One thing I learned, since 2015, when Measure IL was first written, is that, things were tweaked from then up until, 2020, when S1 went into effect. Things were strengthened. The OIG came to be, the council, came to be part of the commission. So we can always tweak and improve on things. So this is what we're doing. The other thing is that by mentioning and enforcing the language that says that the commission by a majority vote can request this type of investigation information, it takes it away from one person. And now the majority of the commission who voted is part of this information, and collectively they can make a decision. And it's not only to the chair, or it's not only to an ad hoc chair, it's to the majority of the commissioners who voted to request this information. The same thing for the Office of Inspector General and for the staff of CPRA. So, because this information could still be passed on to someone in the commission by IAD or the department, and they can claim later, well, we informed you guys about it and you guys did nothing about it, so it's just taking all that away. We're trying to cover every possible scenario to prevent this type of stuff, and we certainly don't want to create more work for our our CPRA staff. But that comes with the territory. If you have one or more cases, or a lot more in this case, it's who is benefiting are the Oakland residents. So that's my point.
Okay. And what I think is that we try to figure out what procedures we can put in place that will make it work. Right now, if there are 1,200 IAD complaints, nobody is going to be able to sort through it. And we're gonna miss some, because even the one that is the subject of today's news, it might have been described in such a way that we would not have had any idea the significance of what was going on. So there has to be some triaging somewhere along the way. And we need to have a procedure in place to do that, whether they come to the, even if they give us a list of 1,200 at next Thursday's meeting, the question becomes, how would we be able to separate from that list which ones of these might blow up, or which ones of these we should spend time trying to have CPRA investigating? We won't have enough information. So what procedures can we put in place that will bring to the commission the information that we need to bring, and that we need to know, and that we need to investigate? And so I like where we're going, Mariano. I like the idea that we set up something where we can get the information. There is a number. It's a question of bodies, and in a lot of ways,
Right.
bodies at CPRA, bodies at the police commission. Even if we gave each police commissioner, all 9 of us, 50 cases, 100 to review or something, out of every time they give. If that's 1,200 a month, I don't know how many on a monthly basis.
Right. But
300 a month.
Commissioner
ahead.
Harlan Forte,
Yeah.
if IAD turns over 1,200 departmental internal complaints a month, that should tell us something. There's a problem.
That would be a lot. I don't think that there's that many cases. I would say we get about 55 cases a month. And I don't know how many they get that are internal complaints, but so there's space between the numbers. So if they give us, for example, 1-001 and then 1-004, we know that there were 2 cases in between that were internal complaints, because the numbers are still sequential. So I don't know exactly what their numbers are, but it's not in the thousands, because we don't have that space between the numbers. It's maybe, I'm guessing, 20, 30 complaints.
20, 30 complaints a month.
Right, and that's me speculating again, just based on the spaces between the numbers, but.
So if it's around 20 or 30, and at the first meeting of the month, they give us their list of the departmental internal complaints. So we have that list of, let's say 30. It's not, we divided by 9 people.
But again, you would have to realize that those 9 people would have to do some investigation to even decide. Again, like I said, the complaint could be something general, like there was improper procedure or improper POD was followed. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily tell you much of anything. So you would need to, in the way that we would get them, and CPRA would, before Aaron and I came, would get them, and then they would make a determination just based on that general information. We decided that that's not assisting the community in the right way. We're not addressing the complaints. So we changed the policy and started having the intake tech listen to every single statement, regardless of what the CIR said. So you would, at the commission, at least have to start with having someone summarizing all of the audio statements and gathering that information, and possibly the video, some of the video, to determine what the complaints were in the first place. So it would take some investigation to even determine if you wanted us to investigate it. Just getting the CIR would not get you to where you were trying to go with that.
But those
And that's what I'm saying. If the commissioners make some kind of initial cut, and again, there are 9 commissioners, so we each get assigned some of those cases. It's kind of like, this is your batch. So Harbin Forte, you go through these, and then you come and make a recommendation to the commission as to whether or not the commission should direct CPRA to investigate. But in
But
order
Ms.
to
Charlotte,
get,
are you saying that there, even if the example that was just given, that on its face, the documents that the commissioners would receive would not yield enough information for them to make an appropriate determination? That's what I'm hearing. I want to make sure that's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I didn't see that particular complaint, but I'm telling you that the majority of the complaints that we received, the CIRs, are so general and basic that on the face of the complaint, you would not be able to make a decision as to that being something that was any more, needed more attention than anything else. I mean, it might say something like, search and seizure, or.
and that's my point. That's my point. Harbin Forte gets the stack. I have to do some investigation. I gotta listen to something, review something, see body on camera. I gotta do something in order to assess whether or not I should make a recommendation to the commission that the commission direct CPRA to investigate this particular complaint or incident.
Okay, that statement is what was missing initially. So if the
Yeah, that's
commissioners
what I was, yeah.
are willing to do that first level
Ms.
investigation.
Ordez has her hand up for
Oh,
long.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I can't see screen, sorry.
Oh, no,
I'm
that's
mute.
okay. I'm gonna get to her, but that's why I just wanted to be clear that what I'm saying is, as we talk about what kind of procedure we can put in place to try to catch these things, we have to look at the workload, what the steps will be, what steps will be involved, and how much work there's going to be before the commission could get to the point of making a recommendation, a directive, giving a directive to CPRA to investigate. Kareli, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner, and everyone here for the wonderful discussion. And of course, my dogs are going to go crazy right now. I wanted to bring us back to this document. So if we decide to make this addition, which I think is great, what does that mean for people who read this document? What do they do with this information? So I want to just bring us back to our goal of today is finishing this document or getting it as close to ready. That's one piece. The second piece is in regards to the commission and its members taking the lead on at least doing a first review of the investigations that happen. I do think that's a broader conversation, and I personally envision that as being as ad hoc or a standing ad hoc that that has regular workflows and regular people doing that work. I also think that we need to talk about commissioner training. That has not been great, and I'm a newer commissioner, so I've just done some of the training, and I'm waiting for OPD to follow up on some of the trainings that are remaining in my list. So there's that piece about preparing us as well to make sure that we are able to do that. So I think there's multiple layers here, but I also just want to make sure that we get to a place where we can at least have a good first draft to move this document forward, which is our mandate.
And thank you, Kareli. And right now, as we brainstorm and look at procedures, yes, they're broader. And obviously there are things that this ad hoc can't decide. But as we talk about what we ought to include in the procedures, I think we need to take a look at what's realistic and consider what would be realistic and what we can do to accomplish the goal. Mariano raises very good points. And I think, again, we all would like something at some point in place where we don't have a repeat of what happened this last time.
So I think that we're talking and we're referencing possibilities or examples and not real, because Director Jones, have you ever seen a self-initiated IAD investigation or a departmental internal complaint?
Have I seen an internal complaint here? No, they don't forward them to us.
Okay, so that's because there's nothing in place for them to do so. So that's why we're asking. So that number all of a sudden from 1,200 went down to 30, and I suspect it's going to go even less because we're talking about departmental internal complaints, such as the one that we're all referencing. We're not talking about complaints are coming directly to OPD and done by IAD by the public. We're not talking about that. We're talking about as Reggie coined it departmental internal complaints. And so I suspect that number is going to be even smaller. And the reason I asked you if you had seen one is because I really suspect if you would have seen this one and the process that it took and what the investigators did to cover up and change and make sure that it didn't go a lot of places, that you would have flagged that. I mean, I cannot see anyone on these days or the commission, not seeing that and flags go up, red flags go up. So we're talking about a smaller number, and we're not talking about complaints that are coming from the public directly to OPD, and then they have to share with CPRA. We're talking about departmental internal complaints, or as I say, self-initiated investigations.
Well, and behavior changes, because if they know that, look, if I know that if whatever I do, that's all right, my sergeant ain't gonna do nothing. Everybody looking the other way, and they didn't do nothing to John over there, so I'm good. And so is my buddy. But now we got your behavior being reported to an outside group. That sends chills down the spine of officers. And that's what we're after. I'm not here to catch somebody wrong and put them in jail or kick them off the force. I want them to act right. And so I believe this is how you do it, with strong policy and saying that if you don't tell the truth, or if you lie about anything, you're gone, and the guy who watched you lie is gone too. And it won't be the blue wall of silence, or that's my buddy, or he was my best man at the wedding, and blah, 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 blah. It's somebody who I don't even know. Somebody named Mrs. Myers or something, who doesn't know me outside of the department. And that's who's going to be ending up making me lose my job, and I can't pay my mortgage. So no, I'm not into that. And your attitude changes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're after.
Yeah. Kadeli, and then Pastor Thompson.
I'm curious, so I agree 1000%, but I'm curious if it makes sense to have it here in this document.
I'm sorry. Yes, and it may not go in this document.
Yeah.
One of the things I think we're going to identify, or there may be some recommendations for charter change. And so as a result of this and these conversations, we can make a recommendation that there be some charter or something. But
although that will be a longer process, I'm curious, could it be a policy of the police department that they adopt, formally agreeing to all IAD investigations? Like, I'm just trying to get to a place where we can actually move that forward. And I don't know if putting it in this document will get us there. I think that it could be a separate policy that we as a commission review and discuss. But OPD needs to be, they need to agree to do this, right?
Right. And so these are things that we talk about as we identify issues. And there is an IAD policy. We can recommend OPD change the policy. There are a number of things that we can do, and I think that this is a good discussion to have, because it's helping the commission see where there are some gaps, where there are some holes. And while we won't be able to do everything in this policy, we do know what other policies can be affected. And again, it might mean a charter. Maybe there's another S1 or something that's on a ballot or something at some point. But we can work with what we have. And certainly, these kinds of things will have to go to the commission.
Folks, unless I'm wrong, it's already there. All we're doing is giving it a name.
Right.
The OPD has already agreed to give this information. All we have to do is ask. The commission all has to do is ask. The OIG, all they have to do is ask. CPRA, all they have to do is ask. It's in the charter. All we're doing is making sure that question gets asked by simply saying that all additional self-initiate or investigation of misconduct be made available to CPRA within 1 or 2 business days of commencement. That we're just adding that line. We're not changing policy. We're not changing the charter. All we're doing is just naming it.
But when you name it in the CPRA's SOP, you put the onus on CPRA to get it,
Yeah.
as opposed to putting the onus on the department to give it. They're the ones with the information. So if it was going to be added to anybody's procedural manual or policies, it should be the departments to give it, as opposed to it being in our procedures to have it.
Yeah.
Then is it possible, for the purpose of doing a couple of things, which I've heard, to work with the language that is right here that has been pasted in, making sure that it is changed to reflect what was lifted up in terms of it not being self-initiated, but internal department, whatever that language was? And is it possible to change, if it's agreed, shall be made available to, shall be requested monthly, or whatever it's going to be? Because I recognize a couple of things. One, police reform in terms of investigation is not going to happen through CPRA. There's other work that has to be done for that. And even as it relates to this, it still feels like the onus is going to be on the police commission, and hopefully they will take that on and do what needs to be done, as well as the lobbying that would need to be had in order to add more staff that is already strained. But if we could make this statement as strong as possible, as reflected in the charter as it currently reads, would that be helpful without promising something that you actually cannot do? So I think the department internal, Deacon Lyles, you would have to help us again with what this line should read.
I would say departmental internal complaints of misconduct shall be made available to CPRA. And I would keep shall in there, definitely within, within 5 business days of commencement.
Who shall make them available?
Yes, and then I would, and parenthetically, I would cite Mario Contreras, the charter. I would say per charter, blah, 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 that Mario has laid out paragraph, whatever, subsection F, and leave it like that. Now they're going to look at this, and then they're going to do the investigation. And then they're going to say, there's no way around it. How do we get around it? That's what they're going to be thinking and talking to themselves. How do we not do this? And they go, well, it's in the charter. You cannot avoid it. So consequently, you make your monthly request, and then they'll give it to you.
And it may be too that because there's the step in between giving it over to CPRA is that the commission has to direct CPRA to investigate.
Yeah.
So maybe it has to, and again, that's what I was saying, maybe the information really kind of comes to the commission.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe during the chief's report. How many internal investigations did you, they're there at every.
Well said.
So in terms of language, we are back at as directed by the commission.
Yes,
well said.
Just for
something
this
along
statement.
those lines. But how we get it is basically you come and you tell us now. This may have to be done in closed session. You still got the police officers' Bill of Rights. They got privacy. They got all those other kinds of things. But it may be that that's part of the police reports, the police department's report that they give us at every meeting. How many internal? And then we don't necessarily want. We have to be careful too in terms of what we ask for, but there may not be that many. There may not be that many that are internal stuff.
They're not going to be that many once they know you guys are looking at you.
Yeah.
So all additional departmental internal complaints of misconduct.
Yeah.
He's saying
And
shall
so
be
that be given
investigated
to
as
us.
directed by the commission?
Yeah, and then yes. Well,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
And then we get that, and we're told how many there are and stuff. We're gonna still need some additional some additional information. They're gonna have to tell us what's involved, and then the commission can then direct CPRA to investigate those complaints.
Well said.
Okay, so then we
I
need
think that's
to
the way it would
place
have to
that.
be. You agree,
in this
Cordelia
line.
and Angela? that we would have to do it, that we'd have to do it that way. So CPRA really wouldn't do anything initially.
Right,
It would have to come to the commission.
yes.
And
But,
then we'd have to make some
Commissioner-
kind of assessment. Yes,
Commissioner Harvard Forte, it would have to be done as the charter language states that by majority vote, the commission
Right.
is requesting. So
Right.
then now it becomes official. It isn't,
exactly.
Carelli asking the chief or whoever is giving the report, can you please give me this? It's
Right,
like, well,
right,
I'll get
right,
back to
yeah.
you next week.
No,
This is
no,
the-
it would be the commission taking action
Mhm.
after, but we'd have to be briefed basically on the substance
Correct.
of the allegations.
Mhm.
And that's why I said it might have to be done in closed sessions or something. I don't know how it could be done.
Yeah, Government Code 3300, you probably would have to be a closed section. Couldn't be
So
public.
we'd have to get that information and get enough
Yeah.
detail about it so that we could make an assessment as to
Yeah.
whether or not we should direct CPRA to investigate.
Correct.
And those are some internal procedures, some procedures for the commission to do, but it's a very good idea, Mariano, to try to see how we can work that.
Right.
And
Are we
talk-
keeping this language here or no?
I'm sorry?
Are we keeping this language here? All additional department internal complaints of misconduct shall be,
Made available to CPRA within 5 business days of
Mm,
And then put
a
the,
directive from the commission for CPRA to investigate.
Okay. all right.
and then cite the charter.
Right.
So we can we highlight that language, Charlotte,
Sure.
for right now? And then again, we still may go back to, will we need any special procedures for CPRA to investigate these? That's why we might need a separate section that's headed investigation of departmental internal complaints or something like that. But would the process be different? Would the
No, the
steps?
process wouldn't be different. We already investigate non-mandated complaints in the same way that we do mandated complaints. So the process to us for investigations wouldn't be any different. It would
Oh,
just be if you
okay,
direct
then.
us to do it or not. It's the
Okay.
same type of investigation. And I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, and I feel terrible about this, but I am a single parent and my son has
Yes.
been with you to pick him up since 7:15.
We're getting out of here. It's 7:29.
Have
We're
anywhere else
getting
to
out
go.
of here. We are going to have more meetings anyway. And this is actually all very good. This is very timely. So our next meeting, we're just going to keep our every other Tuesday meetings until we can get more, 6 to 7:30. And I think that Kelly has already told her to go ahead and put them on calendar through the rest of February. So our next one then would be the 14th. Okay, Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Ooh,
Doesn't matter.
No, huh?
I need a note from you.
I gotta buy
Commissioner.
dinner. I gotta buy dinner.
Right, yeah, I'm gonna say right at dinner time from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Should we not do the 14th? So
Can
we
we
can.
do the
We
7th?
should not do the 14th.
Should we
I'm gonna
do?
be out of town.
Do you want another week? Do the 7th and then do the 28th? Or I don't want to skip all the way to the 28th
Right.
or the 21st. I guess we could do the 21st instead of the 14th. How about the 21st? Okay. All right then. So,
Hopefully by then I will have added also the changes to the investigative process. So
okay,
that would be good.
okay. And then we'll just, we'll set other dates. Somebody will complain that you said it was going to be every other Tuesday and now you skipped and then, okay. All right. Mariano, will you kind of keep the peace for us and say, you know what? I told them we cannot meet on February 14th because I got dinner to buy. Okay, listen, everybody, this is all good. And thank you. We got to be patient through this. We are actually helping the full commission through this ad hoc and the ideas that we came up with and thought about tonight, because we can bring this to the rest of the commission and let the chair know that we need to pay some attention to this. So thank you all very, very much. Pastor Jackie and
Thank you,
and Chief Reggie. Thank you all for everything. That's why I love you all, having you on these ad hocs and stuff. Thank you all. Okay,
Bless
Commissioners
you.
Mariana,
Take
we'll
care,
see you all
everybody.
Okay,
Thursday.
good
Bye
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
bye. And I guess